Welcome to Talent Talks, brought to you by the 4As and the 4As Foundation, where we spotlight leaders actively demonstrating ways to create inclusive and equitable workplaces. I'm Kathy Butler, the EVP of Talent Equity and Learning Solutions. On today's episode, I'm incredibly excited to speak with David Pena, early career recruiter at RPA. Welcome, David.
Hi, Kathy. I'm happy to be here today. My name is David. I'm a early career recruiter at RPA. I've been here for the last 4 years, and I've loved every second of it. I work under Laura Small and Chip Peck, Colleen Rorden, with Laura Zyman and Romy Rosen. I want to give them a shout out just because there's not all the work that we do here at the agency is not possible without their support. And a special shout out to Peter Mwali and Brett Pender, our CEO and Chief Operating Officer. And Mike Margollin. Sorry, I know I could probably go all day with giving shout outs, but all those
I
people
love
have
it.
been incredibly impactful. And yeah, I've hired over 400 people in the last 4 years, and I'm incredibly passionate about the early career talent space. And I think we have a very robust and interesting and innovative program, which is exciting. And I'm, excited to talk about all things early careers with you today, Kathy.
Awesome. Fantastic. That's exactly where I want to spend some time. But let's just do some scene setting a little bit. How did you get into your role as an early career recruiter? What was your background? What was your path?
Yeah, I think like most recruiters, and I think I were just talking earlier about an event I was at with university recruiting heads, and I think you kind of just fall into it. I don't think many people like go to school thinking they're going to be a recruiter. Some people do. I'm not saying it isn't a thing, but I think the people who have the most fresh and unique perspectives don't usually mean to fall into it. So I kind of fell into it. I was an assistant media planner at an agency called Canvas Worldwide, strictly media, working under 100 Motors America. Before that, I was at the time what was my dream agency called Giant Spoon, as a media strategy intern. And throughout that whole time, I noticed something. Well, I didn't notice until later, actually. But now I'm reflecting and I noticed that I was really big on informational interviews. I learned a lot about different departments. I was just naturally curious about the business, how it works. Shout out to Mad Men for like getting me inspired and interested in this industry in the first place. And so I was just really curious about the business, how it makes money, how we present pitches, what different roles are. And then a couple years into it, after speaking to one of my mentors over at Movers and Shakers, Jenna Alrich, I just was vulnerable with her, told her that I really wanted to help people. Natalie Kim as well at Critical Mass was someone who greatly impacted my career. And both of them understood that I was being genuine about that pursuit of wanting to help people. And so the challenges that I had breaking into the industry is now the love letter that I'm building out at RPA with the Emerging Talent Program that we have here. So I mean, that's kind of how I got here. I just stumbled, found my way, fell in love with the agency world, and someone eventually saw an opportunity for me and referred me over to RPA, and I've been here ever since. And I'm, incredibly happy being here.
That is amazing. And what is very palpable is your energy being a recruiter. And I can imagine how much that connects as you are talking to talent. What I
Mhm.
always think is really interesting as I ask that question in this episode and certainly in conversations is that a lot of folks sort of fall into advertising and learn so
Yeah.
much and then end up really falling in love with it. And it's like a love affair that gets refreshed and their down times and their up times. And that must be such a perspective that you bring to your conversations as you are talking to individuals. But what has inspired your focus on early careers? It's very particular, and learning about and meeting new generations of students or folks who are considering the industry must just be a very particular perspective. What has inspired this particular focus?
Yeah, I think it still sits with me all the challenges and struggles I had to go, endure to come into the industry. I don't mean that to say that anyone at any particular agency like wronged me by any means. I had such an incredible support system, but it wasn't until I got into the industry that I had that support system. And so I
Hmm.
think advertising is the one industry, and even just entertainment and creative in general, it's the one industry where there's not a lot of resources up front that are being shared significantly. And I've noticed this even from like being a content creator now. Sometimes I notice there are certain creators that are getting more attention than even the resources I'm sharing. And it's not because like, oh, my ego. It's more so like, why is the stuff that we're sharing out at RPA and other places not reaching the masses? And it's because tech and finance overflood the algorithm. So almost
Mm.
everyone wants that because yeah, there's more money in it. But the reality is, in a capitalistic society, not everyone can do the same thing. So there are people who do find this to be an interesting field and they want to pursue it. And so it's been specific to me because the journey that I had to go through, there were just so many things you don't know about: career paths, departments, soft skills that are critical for this. I mean, even understanding that advertising is a giant group project. We're always passing on the baton to the next person. And there's just so much about this world that is so fascinating, and it's still continuing to flourish even with AI coming into the workplace. And I think that we just need more people to not just build support systems internally, but externally. And
Mhm.
I don't know. When you do university recruiting and early career recruiting or emerging talent, whatever you want to call it, you start to find so many good kids who genuinely do want to be in this industry. And it hurts me to see them struggle so much to find support, guidance, and resources. And that's what I've been at RPA. But the three things that I believe heavily on is I'm a resource, I'm a connector, and I am hope for anyone that wants to break into the industry because I've done it before. And I think that's also what makes me so unique to even manage RPA's enrichment program and why I lead it is because I can navigate the complexities of having to deal with executives while also still being able to really relate to the kids.
Mm.
And that has been like my superpower for sure. And I think that's almost the superpower of everyone who is in an emerging talent program leadership position is, and that's not easy, by the way. I think people think, oh, what's entry level recruiting? You find a bunch of talent, but it's complex navigating both sides of that part of the business. But it's extremely rewarding too, because when you see someone go from intern to full time and then they get promoted and then sometimes they sadly they leave somewhere else, but that somewhere else is like a company like Disney or Google or like Sony or Amazon or YouTube, whatever it is. These big companies, you feel so proud of that. And that's not something that they can get anywhere else with such emerging talent. And it feels good for leadership too. So if they're listening in
Mhm.
on that, they get to know they're contributing to the longevity of our industry. So I hope they kind of resonate with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really helpful sort of bigger picture of your
Mhm.
role and certainly your focus. One thing I want to do is unpack some of the challenges that early career or young in career folks are facing as they're taking a potential big step into the industry. Like what's top of mind for them? What are their challenges? What should we be thinking about as the industry and as agency leaders?
Oh man, that's a good question. In a perfect world, I wish there was like a university, not university, but like basically like a post-graduation program, even at universities or even that agencies could come together and build together, just to help educate people as to like where they belong. Because the one thing I fall into, and it's an imperfect situation, but in a perfect world, this is the situation. People would understand exactly what they studied and how that falls into specific roles within advertising. So, I mean, more often than not, I have a lot of people reaching out to me saying, "Oh, I'm interested in this role. It's maybe something that isn't even 100% aligned with what they want to do. Maybe it's very media focused, but deep down, if they went to VCU Brand Center, they're more so focused on strategy. But there's this disconnect about the roles they're presenting themselves to, and like almost this I hate to say it, but this desperation to just land an opportunity and they're not
Mm,
going for the jobs they're actually best suited for. And that leads to like high turnover or not really in alignment, or even it's not even good for the business needs of what the agency is looking for. But I think there's a way to combat that. It's through leadership just investing more in emerging talent in early career programs, because there are so many agencies that people see from the outside and they see all these positions and they're like, well, they don't, it's almost like that, they want to be part of this world and learn more about it. And if there was more early career programs highlighting what's available, offering more mentorship, and then doing it, I think at scale where they just don't target schools, because that's the other problem is I feel like there are certain universities that get a lot more love than others.
mm,
We'd be surprised at the innovation that we're going to get, the diversity of thought we're going to get, and that is better for our business. Time and time again, it's been proven that diversity and innovation are hand in hand, and that's only good for agencies and for our clients. But
mhm.
until there are other organizations that are investing in early career talent the way that RPA is and the way that a lot of other agencies are, we're going to continue to find this struggle where people are raising their hands, going all in on roles that they don't even truly comprehend or grasp, and they haven't even
Yeah.
had time to digest it because there's not enough people like me putting content out there to explain to the young professionals what career paths are available to you. Because there are so many smart, driven individuals that I've met, and I'll just show them something as simple as like telling them that media is like figuring out the who, the why, the when, and the where, and they're mind blown. They had no idea it was that complex. They didn't know the tools they were going to be using, and they didn't know what the end goal for the client's objectives in business has to do with what they do. And so there has to be more, I think, outreach, and more investment in early career programs, and that would solve a lot of the issues with retention, with internal mobility, and with just getting people excited about this industry again.
Yeah, absolutely. That resonates a lot with me, and certainly with the MAPE fellowship program that we have. We spend quite a bit of time, I think, myth busting
Yeah.
about roles, but also equally providing really insight, like you said, how to think about the application of their interest to a particular capability within the organization and building out that understanding. That's certainly a big part of our MAPE program. But equally so, I think what was interesting about what you said was the investment into the programs and the need to invest into the future of agencies and organizations. Yet it's important to recognize that at this point in time, we know, and certainly from data, anecdotal and actual hard data, that agencies are investing less than ever before in terms of early career talent with technology, with just different budgets, the pressure on existing teams when we bring in our early talent that leads more management, more support. What challenges will organizations face as they continue to move away from investing in early talent?
Oh man, there's so many.
It's a big one.
Uh,
It's a big, but this is part of, I think, the meaty
yeah.
topic at hand is that I think, and that we can see the benefits, but the short-term challenges are hard to look away from. So I want to spend some time unpacking this.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think we kind of had discussed this leading up to this conversation was if agencies and leadership do not continue to invest in early career talent, you are almost signaling to the industry, to our clients, and to all of corporate America that you almost have no faith in belief that there's going to be longevity here within our industry. That agencies are basically going away is what you're signaling to the entire world by not investing in early career talent. And I know that sounds like an incredibly hot take, but I think it's the truth. That's why I'm so
Mhm.
proud to work at RPA and why I'm so proud that other agencies are also investing in the early career program because you're saying, hey, we see a future in this industry and we're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to collaborate and create with our clients, and we're going to continue to hire innovative thinkers. And look, the reality is almost every product that people consider to be hot or in the moment or culturally relevant all speak to this generation. So why would you not want to have the insights of what that generation thinks within your organization? And that isn't to lean into ageism, because I'm not saying that's the case either.
No.
We're not trying to get rid of everyone, but we do need more of a balance. And I know people are thinking, well, we need expert, we need subject matters, but some of the craziest culturally relevant social media profiles or campaigns are done by Gen Z. And it's
Mhm.
collaboration with leadership that can provide guidance, mentorship, and that supervision and collaboration that they probably need still. So we're trying to encourage people to find a balance between that because it's only better for your business. Because Gen Z is deciding what's cool right now. They are deciding what is culturally relevant. They're deciding what's important. And you could say argue the opposite for sure. But why not try to take it from every angle? If we're supposed to be
Mhm.
innovative agencies, why are we not finding innovative ways to be creative with how we bring in emerging talent and early career talent? And you lose I mean, also another thing is you want this industry to stay cool, right? And if you don't let in new talent, and where will the legacy go? Are we going to let tech and finance take over completely? Are we really, I guess, almost surrendering to AI? Because that's almost what it feels like by not investing in early career talent. And that can lead to a lot of business issues. I mean, even like, succession. What are we going to do when we're just going to age out and the agency is just going to cease to exist? And so I think the big thing for me is I always compare it to sports. There are sport teams that have legacies and they mentor people because they see these organizations going forever and they want to develop people. In some agencies, it's almost as if they're saying we're going to resign from doing what we do in a few years because we're not investing in early career talent. And it's an affordable business plan too, because now you're investing in people who now believe in not just the brand of the agency, but they believe in the leadership, they believe in the organization, and they might want to stay longer, which cuts down on your recruiting efforts and then allows us recruiters to do a lot more programming and stuff that can help benefit the agency and like fostering stronger relationships with our HR business partners. There's a lot of benefits from investing in early career talent. The more than anything, it's just saying like, hey, we believe we're going to be here the next 10, 20, 30 years, and we're showing that because we're investing in early career talent.
I love this hot take. It is certainly a hot take, but I think it's a very real conversation in terms
Mhm.
of a literal and figurative view of investing in the future of your organization. You hit on all the things that I think about too, in terms of succession planning, in terms of expertise, in terms of fresh ideas, in terms of building new ways just to think about the end consumer because you're working with the end consumer. But to challenge this notion again, just from place of provocation, is that the impact on the organization. I've heard this quite frequently. I'll just use Gen Z as an example. They work differently, they think differently, they have different expectations of work, which then bears on sort of managers and leadership to also work differently. That's cool, but I think the most of I guess the challenge really is on managers. I will say that you may be welcome to disagree. Managers also need to kind of support and lead this generation differently as well. If you agree with that thought, how do managers need to think about their relationship with this early talent? How do they support differently, or maybe not differently?
Yeah.
How do managers show up to help early talent be successful? I guess ultimately is my question.
So oh, it's so fascinating because right now at RPA we're doing our internship program onboarding. Where right now I know I'm plugging RPA a lot because I love the agency, but we've just got 100% offer acceptance rate this past internship. We're very proud of. So now we're in
That's
the stage.
awesome.
It is, yeah, which is really actually difficult because we have talent that like ends up we had someone pull out who didn't get an offer, but they went to Disney, and we have people going to Google and Amazon. So we're proud of our internship program because it attracts some of the best talent. But that also means that we have to be ready to embrace and prepare to lead that talent into success for the summer. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna give speaking earlier too, internal mobility wise is so important. I want to give a shout out to the Honda team here at RPA because they do such a good job at it. And they also do a good job at onboarding people. Mike Vallone is believe he's a VP here on the Honda account team, and he did a presentation for RPA Thrive, which is kind of like a whole month where we've focused on developing people and investing and like helping them thrive within the agency. And he did a training on like properly onboarding. And this is the problem. The pandemic happened, so people kind of got too comfortable being digital. So now that we're in person again, a lot of the things that we probably think are that the younger generation should know, they don't know because we haven't really
Mm.
taught them. They haven't had the chance to observe it in person yet. A lot of agencies and organizations just the last year have started to go full RTO. Even if it was last year, people need to be a bit more patient with them because even the leadership that is now mentoring and guiding and supervising this talent, they themselves didn't really have to care about that the last few years. So I think it's a problem on both sides. Gen Z still needs to learn how to properly navigate the workforce by being professional in a certain way and respecting it. Because at the end of the day, we do hold that and owe that to our clients. At the
Hmm.
same time, leadership and supervisors, they're so busy doing what they're best at, which is, leading, creating good work, serving our clients, helping them reach their business goals. We're big on respect and results here at RPA. And so I
Yeah.
understand that. But Mike Vallone had this amazing training where he's always asking if someone's not doing well when they're being onboarded or there's challenges. He has this whole like program where he leads with so much empathy. And it's led to some of the most highest internal mobility rates within our entire organization because of his leadership, specifically with how he onboards people. And it always goes back to that. How did you onboard people? And the beauty of investing in early careers is that that's kind of what we specialize in, is onboarding people from the beginning. basically almost, snuffing out any problems that they would have long term because you're investing in them early on versus like trying to get someone who may have a bunch of issues down the road and no one ever really
Hmm.
addressed it. So I think
Hmm.
we're so busy focusing on the client stuff that we need to also take time to invest in leadership and supervisors to train them properly to onboard people. That's something for sure. And that happens with early careers, it happens with recruiters, it happens with HR. That's why you need to invest in it because it's only better for your business. The next
Hmm.
thing is we need to give Gen Z a little bit of patience because they've had to deal with a lot these last few years. It is crazy the amount of stuff going on in the world, and now they have to focus on this as well. And the last thing is just, the pandemic changed everything. So we're starting fresh again. And so people need to
Hmm.
understand that, yeah, I do think there's definitely benefits of being hybrid, but as we lean more
Hmm.
into that, make sure people understand that we have to basically start all over again. Because it
Hmm.
is starting all over again. We were for almost like 2, 3 years remote, and now we're going back in. It is like a fresh new beginning, but that leads to a lot of really good opportunities as well to get this right. And so I encourage leadership to lean into that moment versus just saying, well, things should just be how they were in 2019. It's not going to
Yeah.
be the case.
Yeah, it's a really great insight. And something I always think about is when you design for the quote unquote edges, you're actually designing a better system for all. When you
Yeah.
talk about onboarding for, early talent, and improving that and making that really good so people are successful the minute they walk through the door, that applies to everybody new coming into the organization, someone doing a career pivot, someone coming in as a middle manager, it all applies. And so, maybe one thing I would take away from what you said is that it's everybody's responsibility to help shape and
Mhm.
support early talent, not just the managers, but also leadership, everybody really involved. Because at the end of the day, an office and an agency is like an ecosystem. All parts need to be working well in order for all parts to be successful. And I think it's an interesting way to think about not just putting pressure on one level of the organization to help early talent be successful. I think that's a really great takeaway. And the other thing that I was really inspired in what you said is that there's sometimes like key figures to help specific um, teams and let's call them levels in an organization be successful in some ways, like a little bit like an executive sponsor to help early talent be successful. However, that shapes out. You cited one person. Is that something that you think is relevant? Is there if there was someone who was a senior leader who was more responsible than everybody else for early career talent, like your class of whatever. Is that do you think that could help as well? I'm just thinking about specific things that we can walk away as actionable things.
Yeah. I think for sure. The beauty of RPA is that we get people like Mike Margolin who invests heavily in the Forays Institute. So when
Hmm.
you have people that like actually want the organization to invest in early career talent and take time out of their busy days, because it takes a village. It is not something, even the one reason of my success here at RPA is because we have an incredible CEO, incredible COO, people like Margolin, people like Pete, people like Brett, Chip and Laura, who all invest heavily in the program. I cannot do this alone. Yeah, I'm very vocal on LinkedIn. I create content, but that is only meant to help inspire people and educate them. But it's not the real work that I'm doing inside. That's also what like just people can understand what you see on social media is not the full truth. It is
Yeah.
just a lot of, but people making it to be more of a phenomenon than it really is. But we're doing a lot of hard, important, critical work inside the agency as a village. But it takes, yeah, to your point, it takes someone like Pete being on boards. It takes someone like Mark Margolin wanting to invest in talent. Even Brett, when he sends over referrals from people that he knows really want to be in this industry and he wants to help guide them, it does take a village and it takes a lot of leadership and executives to want to implement that. And I also think, for them, they've had such a longevity in their career, so many interesting stories. It's like when you sit down at a campfire site and someone tells you the lore of all these beautiful stories, you need leadership to step up and be inspired the way the RPA's leadership is to get these people excited. So meet us halfway. We're starting all over again, like I mentioned. So I
Hmm.
encourage leadership to reinvigorate themselves and understand that they have such an impact to the world. And that's beautiful, by the way. when all this is said and done in life, don't you want to look back and tell yourself, like, I did my best? I mean, I know money's
Hmm.
important, and I'm not trying to take away from the fact that we are here as a business, but it is
Sure.
so much more worth it when you can look back when, it's all said and done, saying, I did my best to leave this place a little bit better than it was. And so I'm happy to talk to people. Even if you're not at RP, I'm happy to tell you what we're doing at the agency. I don't want it to be a secret. I want to share exactly what we're doing to be
Yeah.
successful because it'll only help the industry. But yeah, I encourage people to we're not that expensive. I hate talking about salaries, but we're not that expensive. Hire someone who's gonna manage your early career program and start small. It doesn't need to be, RPA is between 18 to 20 interns a semester. It doesn't have to be that massive. If you want to hire two or three, but start small. Join, the 4As, get involved in MAPE. Any program that helps you find diverse talent, hire one or two people. And even if it's not diverse talent, however you want to see it, because that whole political world is complicated right now. But
Mm.
hire someone who's going to help you with succession planning, someone who can help you with internal mobility. That's your early career person. And if you can really lean into that, it's only going to be better for your business needs. So hire someone like me, hire someone who's passionate about breaking people into the industry. And if you really want to get the right person for it, just look internally in your organization to see who is actually helping shift things, who's helping training things with the training and whatnot. And then look for one executive leader sponsor. I think the best person for this would be your chief operating officer is usually going to be the best person, I think, if they don't have an HR person who's at that level.
Hmm.
But I think, yeah, and I'm hoping that answers your question, but I do think they need to hire
Yeah.
someone in the emerging early career talent space to then feel like, okay, now we can take action because they will find ways to take action. And again,
Yeah.
my email inbox and LinkedIn are always open. So I'm happy to talk to anybody about what we're doing here at RPA.
That's awesome. I'm just gonna hone in on one word you said or a term you said, which is about succession planning. If we
Yeah.
thought about emerging rising talent as succession planning and not a have to do, and not as uh, a uh, a challenging resource against the whole agency, I think we would all think about it differently, right? We think about succession planning as like the next level down, next level down. But if succession planning was applied to emerging talent as leaders in 20 years, would we think about their trajectory, their contribution, their career paths totally differently? I mean, I would just challenge the industry to think about emerging talent in that way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that is the case, by the way. I mean, not to, you know, brag too much, but when people think about, like, let's say someone leaves in a mid-level role or a senior level role, I'm usually the first person to reach out to, just like, hey, David, who do you think would be good for this? Or who do you think would be good for that? Because you're literally like, you know, not raising these children because they're not children.
I know
uh,
what you mean. It's like
yeah.
you're growing talent in your organization.
Yeah, so I know them at their infant stage of their early career, and I know what they're like, and they usually reach out to me too when they have questions, and those are confidential conversations I have with them. I hope no one's hearing this and think, "Oh my God, David's gonna put me on blast." I don't, but I know what they care about, I know what they want, and I know they trust me. So when that trust is there at the very beginning, you can build something so much more beautiful and so much more measurable too and impactful within your organization. So I think, yeah, that it's exciting to see it as succession planning because that's what it is, really is that. And again, innovative creative agencies are going to find ways to harness that. And I hope they see it from that perspective and think, wow, I can save money, do a good thing, build my legacy, continue to have this industry flourish um, without it needing to feel like it's such an overhaul. It also just makes your agency look cool too. Early career
Mm,
programs is such a cool way, I think, to even brand your agencies that we really care. We get back. It's a good like philanthropy kind of perspective if you want to see it from that perspective. But there's so many ways to look at it interestingly. And yeah, succession for sure, I think is an approach. And yeah, it's definitely an approach you should take when you're looking at early career talent for sure. Yeah.
absolutely. So I think, in this moment in time, it would be easy to slip into a mindset of like it's hard. There's a lot of stuff going on, political world, as you said. As you're thinking about emerging talent and the future of this industry, what are you optimistic about?
Well, yeah, optimism. So that's for me, I'm most optimistic about the fact that we time and time and again as society have found ways to come across and come over challenges that we've had. That is the beautiful thing about America. Is the beautiful thing about human beings and people is that when we're given challenges, there's this moment of period. And I saw this on in TikTok, I think, but it really resonated. There's the area of not knowing, and then like all this resilience you have to build up until you get to the knowing stage. And I think we're really in the middle, the grass, like with a storm of like not knowing what's going to happen. But the
Hmm.
beauty of our industry is that we are so creative, we are so innovative, we do think in ways that other industries can't think. We always have since the beginning. That's why we are in a creative world. But AI, I think, is scaring people more than it probably should be. I understand that people think it's going to take away jobs. I hate to, if anyone loves AI and they're listening to this, I'm sorry. Sometimes I talk to it, it doesn't get everything right. I feel like sometimes it even creates more work for me, some
Mm.
capacity. Uh,
Yeah.
but if you use it properly, and I think that's where Gen Z also comes into play. They are leaning into it more than anyone else, and it's just like social media for them. I think they're going to be the leaders in that space and how to use it the most effectively. So I have hope that leadership will at some point notice and acknowledge that, and they'll say, "Damn, we really need to hire some people who understand how to use this tool to its fullest." Because there's young professionals out there like building, multi-million dollar businesses, successful businesses, just using AI and leveraging that to like create this whole like workforce and automate things and to think of innovative ideas and to be productive. And is always the youngest generation is always going to be best with technology. That's always been the case. Um, so I'm hopeful that jobs will not go away, that they'll only change. I think people will now be seen as generalists versus specialists because of AI. But that's exciting, right? I mean, you can work on, sorry, my phone. I can work on ad ops. I can work on programmatic. I can do media planning. I can do creative brand strategy. I can do RFPs. I can do account management. You're going to be able to do so many more things. And I hate bringing up Mad Men again, but if you watch Mad Men, a lot of the staffing and headcount in the agency are people just typing. So the administrative side, it's always been small teams. It's never been,
Hmm.
but because digital requires so many people to touch that part of the business, we have high headcount. So I think it's a really exciting time to rethink your career within advertising. I think it's an exciting time to invest in emerging talent, and I have hope that those two will intersect at some point. And I'm excited to see what the industry will look like once that finally hits. But I have a lot of hope that the best people who genuinely want to be in this industry, they will survive. Unfortunately, this is weeding out people I think that aren't 100% committed to the craft and the art of advertising. But if you really love it, I think the future is very bright and there's a lot to hold on to hope for. So yeah.
That is amazing. Well, cheers to a bright future. I think you and
Yeah.
I share a very optimistic viewpoint on emerging talents, the value contribution, and the importance to organizations in terms of long term success and long term survival in this
Yeah.
particular industry. So, David, I just wanted to thank you for this brilliant conversation. I have left absolutely so inspired, and now wishing that I met you early in my career to relaunch and really rethink in a way that I had not had the opportunity to, but still
Yeah.
am finding so much inspiration from you now.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being part of today's Talent Talk from the 4As and the 4As Foundation. And we will continue to have this important discussion on emerging talent.
Thank you, Kathy. It was an honor and a pleasure. And to everyone listening, just hold on a little bit longer. There are a lot of people like me looking out for the little guy, and we will find a way to help you break into the industry. But thank you again for the 4As for all the amazing work you do. Kathy, as always, it's a pleasure. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.